All right, so hit red again. All right, so we're going to be talking about put and get today. All right, and the whole point of this is communication between two PLCs in the Siemens TIA portal world. All right. Now, I was so hopeful when I was first networking Siemens that networking two PLCs was going to be really simple, right? With the HMI, which you guys have used, it's just like grab the tag and you're done. Yeah, it's not that simple between two PLCs. I don't know why they couldn't make it that simple, but they didn't. So we have to deal with it. So the first thing we need to do is get two PLCs or whatever PLCs you're using into your program. For our case right here, we're using both 1214C AC/DC relays, which has the 1BG40 as the version number, because that's what we have in class. But any two PLCs should be able to communicate. Next, we actually need to get them networked together. So on the screen in front of you, I have the networking screen, or on the devices and networks in the project tree. And we're going to first hook up a network. So we're going to go green box to green box. So you're going to click and drag and then drop it in the other one. And you'll now see that it says PN/IE. All right, so that is our Ethernet connection. Next, we need to set up an S7 connection. So we're going to go to the connections, not network anymore. We're going to do connections. And we're not going to do HMI. We're going to do an S7 connection. And you're going to do the same thing. Click on the green box, drag it over, drop it in the other green box, and you should now see it says F7 connection 1. Now, next, we need to modify our IP addresses. The software defaults to 192.168.0.1 for every PLC. I guess it's .1 for the first one, .2 for the second, and so on and so forth. But for our purposes, I just want to go through how to change those, because it's definitely nice to be able to pick what you want. So under the device configuration, actually, if we right-click on the PLC and say Properties, that'll bring up our window. And under the Profinet interface here, if we scroll down a little bit, you can see your IP address. So this is the first PLC. That is .1. For my purposes, I'm going to do 55 for my first one. And I'm just going to say OK. And then for the second one, I'm going to make it 57. The reason we're doing this is that way if we hook all of our PLCs in our lab up together for whatever purpose, they will all have their own dedicated IP instead of having conflicts with each other. So it's nice to go with that route. So we're adding 50 to the number that is written on our PLC, but that all depends on your setup. So that's how we are working this game. At this point, we should be able to download this, and we won't be able to communicate yet because we haven't set up anything to communicate. Cool. Next, we need to go back into the properties for each of those because I forgot. We need to scroll down on the left-hand side and go to Protection, and then you need to scroll down some more. It doesn't look like you can scroll down very far, but you got to keep scrolling. And then we got to allow permit access with PutGet communications from remote partner. So we got to check that box on both of them as well. So go ahead and set up both of those. All right, so we've got our PLCs networked, we're allowing access, we've got our IP addresses set up to what we want them to be. So that is the first good step. Next, we're going to come into program blocks. And we're going to do an add new block here. Now, so far, all we've done in this class really is use the main block, which is OB1, is our organization block. It's the main one. There's a whole bunch of other options in here that if you wanted to use them, you could, like first cycle or time delay or specific time of day or whatever the case. There's a whole bunch in there. We're not touching those. What we're going to be using is a data block. And this is just a place for us to store information. That's really what it comes down to. It's like tags, except for it takes all those tags and puts them into one little thing, like how our counters and timers work. You know how we have all those different tags kind of grouped into one block? The exact same idea here, except for this is one of our creating, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to call this one send. And I'm going to give it a manual number of 100, just to make my life easier. You shouldn't need to change the number. From everything I've tested, the number doesn't matter, but it's nice to do that, in my opinion. And then you're going to go say hit OK. And I'm just going to create 8 bits. So I'm just going to call it B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, B7, B8. And then once you do that, you need to go to your second PLC and create the exact same thing, except for I'm going to call mine receive this time. And it's going to have the same bytes. So I'm just going to copy these, and I'm going to go create the other one, and I'll be back when that is done. All right, now that we have those databases created, here's my receive one, which we're seeing here, and here's my send one. They look exactly the same, holy moly. Actually, I didn't change. There we go. There's my send. So what we're going to have to do now is let's go change the attributes of this. So on each of those data blocks, you're going to right-click. You're going to go down to Properties. And here in the Attributes section, so come down all the way to Attributes, we need to unoptimize block access. And then hit OK. And we need to do that to both of them. If you do not do this, it will error out on you. So make sure you unoptimize both send and receive. All right, now, one thing I forgot to turn on in the properties, at least for PLC1, is to enable the clock. So that way we can be constantly sending information. So you are going to open properties back up for PLC1, go to system and clock memory, and I like to enable both. Every once in a while, the always false comes into very handy. So I like to hit both checkboxes. But really what we care about for today is the clock memory bits. And then go ahead and hit OK. After you have that, it's time to go into our main instruction. So go ahead, open up the main block, and we'll be right back. All right, block bits. Is this the our first try, guys? You did it. That's simple. Wow. That's what it looks like. You good, Frankie? You got that table? All right, so now we are going to add a data bit just that we're going to change. All right, so we're going to put a make contact and then a coil. For my make, I'm going to go with clock, and I'm going to go with half a hertz so that we're sending as slow as possible. We're changing this one. And then I'm going to make this my send, and I'm going to make it B1. It really doesn't matter which bit you're using. We just want to be able to have one changing so we can actively see something is going on. That is what we really care about. So just a make with a 0.5, and again, I want this to be slow. That way we can actively see on the receiving side in the software. The PLC will probably update a lot quicker, but remember our software only updates about once every 3 seconds. So if you go too quickly, you're not going to see anything actually happening on the screen. It will happen in the PLC, but not actually on the screen. So that's why I went with the half hertz there. Next, we need to get the put or get command. All right. In this case, we're going to use the put command. All right. Now, you could come over here on the communication section under, is it S7 communication? There you go. There's your get and your put. I don't like that. I like just to use the question mark box. And I'm going to say, just type in PUT and then hit enter. Enter again, and boom, it pops it up for us. So that's my personal preference. Data block name at this point, it just put DB is perfectly fine. So we're just going to say, okay. Now, REQ, this is one of the ways that we can make it actually send information. All right. This command works by every time either the put command becomes true or REQ becomes true, from my understanding, it will actually either send or get information. So it's not actually constantly happening unless we make it constantly happen. So for our purposes, we're going to put a clock bit in there of 1 hertz. So that way, every second, it will go and get the information. Or in this case, put the information, since that's the command type we are using. Next, we need to click on the little home here. And that will bring up our block parameters. All right. So our connection we need to set up. We need to select our partner PLC, which in this case is PLC2. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And notice it does fill in the information for us right there. So that takes care of a lot of the hard work for us. So that makes our life easy. And this is because we've already set it all up. We hadn't gone through the device and networks in the very beginning. This would be causing more problems than help at this point in time. So. All right, now we need to go back to our block parameters. Now, since we are in the easy mode, I'm going to call it, we only have 1 write area and 1 send area. All right. If we were in the advanced mode, and by getting to advanced, I mean you click the little drop-down arrow here, notice you get 4 addresses for write area and 4 for the send area. So That is very useful, but for our purposes right now, we only need the one. All right, so we're going to specify the area to be written. All right, so to the start area, the right area, this is the destination address. Now, I put 100 for both of my addresses, both on my send PLC, PLC1, and on my receive, which is going to make these things identical, which is kind of nice. At the same point, I can understand how that could get confusing for people. So if you made them different, that's probably the better choice, but I made mine the same, so that way I could have the exact same thing in both spots. So our start location, we are using a database. So we are doing DB, and for mine it's 100. That's our database. And then period, DBX 0.0. That is the start location. So this is where we are starting. Our length, we're going to do 1, and then our data type is going to be byte. And then we're going to copy that and do it in the send area as well. 1 byte. And that should be all that we need to get this to work. All right, now that we've got all that set up, we can go ahead and start downloading to our PLCs. Now, we haven't done this yet in this project, so it is going to take a little bit longer than usual. So we're going to do our search, and in my case, my PLC IP addresses should already match, which is nice. I also do have an HMI on the network, which is why I've got an extra 151 coming up. But I'm going to go ahead and load PLC 55 first, and then I'll load 57, and then we'll be back. All right, now that you got your PLCs downloaded, we can go check our receive table. So I have my receive table, as you can see in the top center, it says receive. And if we actually go to put our sunglasses on, we should see bit 1 alternating true and false, and that is from the main code. And if we actually look at the main code here, you'll see on PLC2, there is nothing. So there's no reason that bit should be changing other than the fact that we are getting the information from the network. And that, in a nutshell, is how you do put and get. You can, from my understanding, directly access your actual tags, but it might be better to use databases to keep things organized for what data is being sent and received. So that is up to you. All of these are actually being sent. So if I would come up here to my send data, and I would come look at one of these, and I would modify my B4 to be a 1. Let's go ahead and do that. If I will go back to my receive one, you should see that, yep, and we are on receive right there, that B4 is true. So you can just modify them manually. It's nice having that clock pulse it out for you. If you have problems, there are so many different things that could cause them. Too many to list here, and so many of them that I don't understand. So this is just a real basic how to get PutGet working in a brand new file. I've had problems with files that already exist, so hopefully you can figure that one out from this video.